The thing that makes engraving difficult is the pattern one seeks to carve. One needs blueprints to study and learn. Developing the skill into a meaningful profession takes much work. For a new player, one would need to buy a blueprint. However, Cole has always had a good memory of Cosmos's professions. He'd long studied beginner and master level engraving. With trembling hands, Cole pushes and pulls on the crumbling stone. The stone is even looser than he thought, and a chunk of jagged rock returns to fit comfortably in his hand. With a deep breath, Cole takes the stone tool to a corner of the room. His hand still trembling, Cole begins to carve a magic circle into the stone wall. Then lines and cuneiform-like notches. With a breath, he cuts the final piece, and a system alarm rings out. Successful engraving, NPC Cole Luna is awarded 500 legacy experience. NPC Cole Luna is awarded 1 potential point. Cole clutches the stone till his fingers turn white. In haste, he puts the point into mind. Mind, 2. Just by putting a single point into mind, Cole feels his consciousness grow sharper. His fear and weakness are less overwhelming, but not gone. He is still a long way from feeling comfortable with the situation. In earnest, he continues his work. XP plus 500, XP plus 500, XP plus 500. He repeats the process over and over, gaining XP every time. But the precious potential points only pop up infrequently. Without knowing day from night in his prison, Cole feels his bones and muscles ache as he completes his latest engraving. Huff, he sighs. Finally. Mind, 5. He's managed to reach the necessary mind stat to survive the indoctrination. Hopefully, at least. Additionally, his undefined class has been designated Engraver. The rock implement is little more than powder in his hands, but he managed to overcome this hurdle. The cell door opens as if having waited for him to complete his task. Tired and sore, Cole drops the stone and follows the familiar men. They don't go to the room with the black chair this time. Instead, he's led up a flight of stairs and into a great hall. At the end of the hall is a grotesque statue shaped like a Baphomet. Terrible horns rise from the goat's head. A man's body and various bestial traits seem to express the red sect's aesthetic value. Psychological damage received, checking resistances. The system analyzes the data. Resistance threshold exceeds damage. No damage received. Cole sighs in relief, but he thinks better than to let his guards see his comfort. As his eyes scan the great hall of the Baphomet, he sees other figures, each entranced by the statue. Many of the men and women look as miserable as he. Other acolytes he suspects. Not wanting to stand out, Cole continues to stare at the statue. The system continuously registers the psychological damage and his resistance. As the hours wear on, Cole receives experience points and a few potential points for enduring the statue's mystical effect. Rather than invest the points into mind, he puts them into stamina. With the long night of work and the exhausting presence of the Baphomet, his feeble stats desperately need diversity. Strength 1, Agility 1, Stamina 4, Mind 5. The day mercifully ends, and Cole is returned to his gloomy tomb. Much as he wants to continue his engraving, exhaustion overwhelms him. System, he says as he falls to the floor, wake me up in 4 hours. Understood, is the system's answer. He awakens to an alarm only he can hear. Fortunately, as an NPC, he still has many of the functions of the system that players have. Despite surviving the indoctrination, Cole's mood is low. Cole can't help but feel jealous when checking the forums for new information. The players are all on adventures of their own. Even those captured by a faction can't contain their excitement to see what will happen next. The worst that can happen is a player dies and is respawned, but NPCs don't come back to life when they're killed, and Cole doesn't want to test what will happen to him if he dies. Cole blows out a breath as he grabs a fresh stone shard and begins engraving it into the wall. Initially, Cole only wanted to engrave sigils to boost his potential points, but it took little to adjust his strategy. Cole begins carving sigils of power into the wall, with himself as the focal point of the arcane empowerment. Each new engraving boosts his stamina and health recovery while he remains nearby. The hours carried on with the steady sound of stone cutting stone. His experience points kept rising at a steady pace. Unlike most games where experience points boosted class level, Cosmos used XP to invest in training in the player's techniques and abilities. With his class Engraver, Cole unlocked a few abilities. Sharpen improves cutting of power of Engraver's implement. Identify weakness. A sharp eye can recognize fragility. Steady hand. Engraver is certain of where they cut. Cole dumped all his points into Sharpen and brought it to the 3rd level. The process of engraving grew easier with the new skills, and with the sigils in the cell, Cole felt himself grow more comfortable. Unfortunately, comfort in this place was fleeting. The door opened again, and Cole was taken back to the great hall of the Baphomet. The psychological indoctrination lasted only part of the day this time. It was more a matter of reinforcement. Afterward, Cole was taken to a room that looked like a lecture hall. Other acolytes sat in seats, their guards absent, save 2 powerful-looking men at the entrance to the room. The men and women seated throughout the room had various expressions. Some seemed blissful and delighted to be there. Others were more bestial and looked ready to bite someone. And perhaps the scariest of all were the ones with cold and calculating expressions on their faces. Every eye found him on his entrance, and Cole felt himself swallow the lump in his throat. With a deep breath, Cole moved to a chair and sat down like the rest of the acolytes. He tried not to look at any of the people around him. After some time, a man in a red robe entered the classroom. His eyes scanned the men and women. "Glory to the Crimson God." His words stirred the acolytes. "Glory to the Crimson God." Cole joined in for fear of being out of harmony in this dangerous place. "I must congratulate you, acolytes," the man said. "You have survived the trials and become peers among us." The lecturer looked over the gathering with indifferent eyes. "That said, you are the weakest and the lowest among our brethren. It's barely worth the time it takes to train you. Most of you will be dead within a year. The worthy and the unworthy cannot share the same sky. So do not waste my time. Learn what I teach you and practice it for the glory of the Red Sect and our God." Cole looked around the room. A fanatical desire stirred in the acolytes. Even the cold and calculating students seemed tense with excitement. "Now," the lecturer said, "who can summon their demon?" Cole felt his stomach turn. Was he supposed to summon a demon? As far as he understood, he was his own demon. As Cole was caught up in his uncertainty, an enthusiastic girl with a crazy glint in her eye raised her hand in earnest. The lecturer nodded. "Come forward." The girl was bubbly with excitement.